Silver Series event.
And I'm Ellen Widboom here joining Finley.
Thanks for tuning in. So we are playing at a course called Silver Creek Park, which we're really excited about. It's a park-style course out in the open, and we're ready to see what these ladies can do here.
On this card we have Rebecca Cox, Hailey King, Paige Pierce, and Holly Finley.
We've got hole 1 starting off in the woods, which is a difficult hole. There aren't really a lot of gaps right to the basket. You can practice your shot shaping skills here with a flex shot, a nice sidearm. You could go the straight gap and have yourself a 30-foot putt. Even though it's only 250 feet, doesn't mean it's easy.
No, it definitely doesn't mean it's easy. This hole actually averaged just slightly over par for the first round for the ladies.
Bit of a misfire from Paige. She lands left. A little bit away from the basket. Got some work to do yet. Same from Rebecca. It's a tough line to hit.
It really is. You kind of want to hit that higher Anheuser line with the backhand, but there are a few lower limbs that will prevent. And sometimes, I said it last year, it's kind of just a poke and hope to get it up there in the circle. And then if you don't have a putt, make sure you get it somewhere close because the basket is slightly elevated and there still are quite a few trees in the way.
Hailey opting for the only sidearm on our card, and you can see that shot shape works out perfect for this hole.
Yep, great line. Even though it rained a lot and it was still muddy out there, that hole had some dry areas that were perfect for skipping.
I've really enjoyed watching Paige utilize her new forehand up shots over the last several years.
Nice.
She's really incorporating that into her game, which is, you know, inspiring to see. I'm doing the same too.
Yep. Yeah, it's always nice to see, especially, and then you could think of Sarah Hokum too. She's been working on her backhand and it looks great. And she's utilizes it numerous times in tournaments and it's fun to watch.
In Paige fashion, she almost throws it in to save a par. I was a little bit away and tried to just get it up towards the basket. I really expect a 2 here, but you know, I annied it a bit too much.
Is that the stud?
That was the stud. I had to do like a 35-foot par save on hole 1, but that's okay if the putt goes in.
There you go.
Hailey putting for birdie. That's okay. Sometimes the first hole can get you, but easy tap in for par. And she's smiling as she walks away, which is great to see.
So because of all the rain that we had, normally the players would walk under a bridge towards Lake Michigan for holes, I believe, 2 and 3. Those were almost completely underwater. At least hole 2's tee pad was completely underwater. So the tournament director opted to just go directly to hole 4 for the course and added 2 holes on the back 9.
So this tee shot is uphill and there's a Mando on the right. You can see the red arrow, which means you're not allowed to cut the corner, which would make the hole a lot easier for the big arms. But for us, we're just going right up here to the top of the hill, and then hopefully with a nice turnover or a little chip shot, you can get down to the basket for a 3. This is actually a very difficult par 3 for the women, especially because none of us can really 2 it, and it is tough to make it to the top of the hill, but we'll see what we can do.
Spoiler alert, this hole actually played really difficult for both fields. There were 0 birdies yesterday on this hole. It is super difficult with that Mando.
Rebecca makes it about halfway up the hill. I'm opting for a boss, just trying to push it as far up there as I can.
That looks like a great line. Right up the middle. Have a look. And can you see the basket from up there?
I can, yes.
All right. Yep, that's a great spot to be.
But funny enough, in practice, I never made it that far up. So when I got up there, it's like, well, what do I do now? We've all been there.
Yep.
Paige floats a nice one right to the top, hanging out in the zone a little bit past me.
I think we kind of struggled on this hole as well, because even if you make it past the Mando, you're still kind of throwing uphill if you only get it slightly past. And then there's all that shrubbery on the right that you can't see over. You cannot see the basket. And there's no flag on top of the basket to really give you a good idea of where it's at. So practice on this hole definitely would pay off just to get a good bearing of where you're at.
Yeah, I found myself actually aiming for nearby trees because you didn't really know where the basket was. So
exactly.
Just land somewhere near this tree and you should have a putt.
Yep, exactly.
So I did plan to throw a sidearm here, but I was significantly further down the hill in practice. So again, I got up there and I'm like, what power do I use on this sidearm? I can actually see the basket. So I was a little weak on the sidearm. It didn't actually get there, but can get a circle 2 putt out of it.
Right.
And as you can see, like this shot is very difficult. The downhill slope, if you throw too hard, it can really get away from you down there.
Yeah, the out of bounds really doesn't come in too much to play unless you overpower your second shot. Oh, and a great bid, Holly.
Trying to save that mistake up shot.
Man. Another great bid by Hailey.
Hailey hits it on the crown.
And is this for Rebecca's par? Man, those shots are so tricky right behind a tree.
Mm-hmm.
That straddle putt, just trying to get it around and make sure you don't hit your hand.
Wow, that was really unfortunate because it looked like the putt was in, and next thing you know, it wasn't. It's almost one of those that you celebrate internally that it went in, and then you go down to pick up your mini and look up, and you're like,
disappointment.
What happened?
It really is disbelief, and sometimes you just got to walk away, reset, go for the next one. Paige Pierce was actually, for the day, 90% from circle 1, so may not see too many more of those unfortunate circumstances.
All right. Well, as you can see, I mentioned before that is a tough par 3, and the scores prove it. So hopefully, if we play here next year, it might be a par 4 for the ladies, which seems more realistic for our field.
I agree.
Here's hole 5. Now, overnight, we had a huge storm and a tree fell. You can't see it in the drone footage here, but you'll see it in a bit. This is 365 feet. It is birdieable for our field, but you really have to hit the gap and hopefully get a little flare skip over to this opening and give yourself a putt.
I will say that for me in practice, I practiced the roller shot on this hole, and so that was completely taken out for that tree right there. But it is still possible to weave it through those guardian trees, like you said, to get down there. And you want to be on the left for an open putt.
Absolutely.
Again, no threat of OB on this hole. You really just want to get it through those first set of trees.
Hailey executes a great shot and lands right where you want to be. You can give yourself a long look at a birdie or an easy par, whatever you're feeling at the moment.
I think it'd be kind of fun, and I'm not sure if there is a position, but to move that basket slightly to the right a little bit more, maybe 40, 50 feet, and make it a par 4 and really test out some of the shots that you can throw on this hole.
That would be a great shot shaping.
Because it seems like it's kind of a tweener hole. It did average over par for the FPO field yesterday. So it would be kind of neat to see it either move forward for... It's so difficult to get the birdie on this hole.
Trying to shape a sidearm up there to give myself a look. A little bit offline, but, it's close enough. Rebecca having to opt for this cut roller at an angle, which is really creative.
What a smart play. Yeah, and yesterday there were actually no, spoiler alert, no recorded birdies on this hole. Especially with that down tree, I think it maybe kind of messed with a couple of players if they had a different game plan and then just trying to make up something on the fly. But it looks like everybody's down there for at least a par or a bogey, it looks like. Oh, with the stud. It's such a good line.
Trying to get those circle twos in.
Man.
It doesn't hurt your feelings when you keep hitting the basket on everyone, you know? You're like, okay. Paige gives it a little tap tap.
Yeah, it is kind of a great feeling and a disappointing feeling at the same time to draw a medal knowing you're that close. It's a game of inches. Maybe it's the basket.
It's definitely the basket. Little offline there. Surprised myself. I don't usually miss the basket completely. So
yeah, that definitely is a rare sighting. Oh, man, it's the basket.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
I mean, that's my reason.
Nice putt from Rebecca. All right. You just got to cash it in and move on. And
yep, moving on to the next one.
we got 2 more rounds out here, so they're definitely able to get revenge on certain holes. I know I got a few holes out there that I want to get for the next round.
Plenty of more opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we all left, you know, a little to be desired on that hole, especially me. But again, I feel like it is birdieable for us. So hopefully they're going to remove the tree in Saturday's round, and we'll have an easier chance at birdie.
Yep.
So on to hole 6, which is also known as the Lighthouse hole.
I love this hole.
Yeah, people drive from all over the United States just to see and play this hole. It's really iconic. I'm sure you've seen photos of it. It is as beautiful as it looks in the video, and I encourage everyone to visit this beautiful course and obviously play this hole. So Hailey starts us off. Again, even though it's 450 feet, the way this hole is shaped, slightly downhill and the natural hyzer of the disc, the women can get onto circle 2, even circle 1. And I don't mean only the far throwing women, just like all of the field. You know, all you have to do is get halfway down there and then hyzer into the green.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and it does look like the further you are down, the more open line you're going to have and less threat of water. Like that shot right there, she may be in the brush, but she's kind of got an open shot right at the basket. Just a little anhyzer. And yeah, like you were saying, it is possible to get down there. Any shot, just keep it straight down the middle and give yourself a look at it. That might get a little bit into the rough. Nope. And that's ideal. That is a great shot.
it just kept going even though it clipped the trees. That was a really good shot.
Sometimes you just got to power through it and lumberjack your way up to the basket.
Mm-hmm. A little bit offline there, so I'll be doing a little chip shot with the Thunderbird somewhere on the green and just try to save a 4 at this point.
Wow, yeah.
And that'll do.
That'll do.
Rebecca's in, I'd say, the ideal position for me personally. Just right there at the end of the path. You can see the basket and not a lot of trees or bushes to contend with. Anything on the flats feels good, honestly.
I agree. Especially, like I said, it was still pretty wet out there, and you had to be careful where you stepped. You don't want to slide and hurt yourself. So, yeah, flat is good.
I also like this hole because it makes you think about things such as if you're going to lay up, which side of the basket you're going to lay up on. Usually there's a really big breeze, and the last thing you want to do is a super high elevated putt in a headwind.
You do not want a headwind putt on this basket. And if y'all haven't played this before, those chains are surprisingly soft, if that makes sense to you. They play so soft. So
they seem more lighter weight than...
They do. They almost sound like they're plastic chains. So it is a very scary putt, elevated wind, and it just doesn't seem like they're going to catch your disc.
It's also one of those that it's so tall, if you get too close to the basket for your layup, that makes it extremely awkward.
Yeah, I laid up right underneath it, and I was tall enough to just kind of dunk it in. But some players aren't 5'9", 5'10", and so might have, like you said, a more difficult putt. And there's stairs on the other side. It's such a beautiful hole. And this hole actually was the only hole yesterday to average under par for the FPO field. So it is possible. And it's so difficult to be upset out on this course, at least for me. Just, I mean, you're right by the water. You can hear the beach and the waves, and it's such a gorgeous, gorgeous Wisconsin weekend, for sure.
Is there another countdown? Discraft advertising Hailey. Look at that. All right, on to hole 7. It's 330 feet, and it is a birdieable hole for our field. It can get really gusty here, so sometimes you have to watch out for the wind, but as long as you just throw a straight shot and keep the height on it to make it over these center bushes, you should give yourself a look at a putt, which is what I'm hoping to do.
Yeah, no threat of OB here. Shout out to Savage for their sponsorship of hole 7 on all the holes on the Pro Tour series.
Rebecca cranks a perfect shot out there, and that's exactly what you want to do on this hole. Now she's got a putt, no bushes to bother with. I feel like this hole plays longer than 330. In previous years, I've stepped up and thrown as hard as I could and felt like I wasn't getting close at all. So I don't know if it's a mental thing or if maybe it is a little bit longer.
I think with the slope of the hill, and it is slightly uphill, there's something that plays with your mind about it with the trees. It could almost be like a depth perception thing because of all the obstacles.
If you have a rangefinder and you have shot this hole, comment below with what the real distance is. So Paige clips a couple bushes on the way down. She's still got an open look. It won't be easy. I mean, it won't be too difficult to save par from where she's at.
What are you ripping on there?
You know, I went against my better judgment and threw a lightweight boss, even though you can see how the bushes are moving. So I didn't really get a full flight of it. But again, the hole's only 330, so, you know, it's simple to save a par here if you don't get a birdie look.
Okay. Wow, what a great touch shot.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Sailing. Oh, we all wanted that to go in. You couldn't see, but we had a lot of body language in the background.
Great putt. Clean up for par. Move on to the next one. All right, yeah, that hole just averaged slightly over par, so that was a good hole for y'all.
Hole 8, I think this is one of the more difficult holes on the course. You really need a decent placement drive, preferably right here in the middle. And then you need another strategically placed upshot, preferably right up here through this tight tunnel gap to the basket. And then, you know, if you're lucky, you can give yourself a long look at a 3. I'd be curious to know if there were any 3s in our division yesterday.
There was one birdie on this hole, Holly.
Was it you?
It was not me. I would love to get a birdie on this hole, but my goal is to just stay in the middle, have a good upshot, and then have a look at a putt. If I don't, I'll lay it up, get the par, and move on. But yeah, I would say for anybody who's never played this course before, you really off the tee do not want to be too far left. That is almost jail, and I wouldn't say a guaranteed bogey, but it is so tough to get out of that woods on the left.
It might even be more beneficial to short your shot and land in the middle rather than trying to power past this middle section of trees and bushes and risk not having a nice open second shot.
I agree.
Just throwing my boss
just like that.
Yeah, up to the middle here. I don't want to mess with those bushes because I need another full power shot to get up close to that tunnel landing zone.
And this shot kind of does it justice of just kind of how much uphill it is from that tee pad. You're throwing uphill through the wind, and it's a very tricky shot to execute. Rebecca going to a knee.
Yeah, I took some distance off of the hole.
Oh man, that had the chance to be really great.
A little bit too much angle on it, but she's still up there for a look at a jump putt.
And Paige running the basket. Oh
Yeah.
wow, did that take a favorable? Is that her disc?
I think so.
Wow,
Yeah.
what a great kick.
Yeah, Paige had the longest drive on our card. She went to that bush on the right side, but she throws so powerfully that it busted through the bush and came out on the back. So she just had that, short upshot for the second one, which made it look much easier from her position.
Well, folks, if you can power through the bushes, you will do really well out here. So just throw as hard as Paige Pierce does, and you'll do fine out here.
Oh my gosh.
Man.
So many of us hitting the crown of the basket today.
Wow.
Keeping
And there's
the excitement level
There's the
going.
only birdie for the day was Paige Pierce on this hole. Very well executed.
All tapping in. All right. Hole 9. This is a different tee pad than the women usually play. We have a shorter one on the right, but this year we get the long pad, which makes this hole really fun. There's a couple different ways you can play it. You can throw a hyzer to the right or take a straight shot. Anyway, the goal is to land anywhere in this field that you deem appropriate. That gravel road is out of bounds, so you don't want to push it that far, which I think is probably difficult for our women's division to even reach the road. But anywhere in the field is fine, which is kind of nice. The wind gets a hold of it or you misfire. It's okay because the field's huge. Paige pushing the limits there. And funny enough, Jim drove by on his truck at the moment she threw. I thought her disc might go in the back of his truck.
Oh my goodness. That was a great drive. Holly, what do you think about this change that we are now throwing from the longer tee pad?
I like it. I think it's fine for the women. Again, the field is so huge, just as long as you land anywhere in the field, you have a chance at getting a 3. But they made it a par 4, so I feel like it's even more fair.
I would agree. And even the shorter tee pad last year, it was kind of a bugger to get out of the woods. And at least here, there's an opening gap to the right and left. And it, like you said, just get to the field. There's no OB presence until you get to that road.
I like to just shoot the right gap and let the disc hyzer back in. And then make my decision after that. You never land in the same spot.
Yep.
It can be significantly breezy and gusty on this hole, too. The Parks Department did a lot of great work. You can see where I'm standing. The grass is freshly mowed. They really cut out a lot of landing zones and trouble zones for us in case we hit trees and fell down near the trees. They cut out openings. So we were really appreciative of the Parks Department coming out and cleaning up the course for us.
Yeah, shout out to those guys on those lawnmowers. They were out there almost every day
getting it
in
done.
mass and just zooming around the course. It was awesome.
Hailey clips the trees and it takes a bit of the flight out of the disc.
This one's a little deceiving. That giant fir tree right there, the basket, there's actually a tree behind that, and the basket's still about 30. Those trees are right on Circle's edge. You actually want to throw it further into the shadows than you might think that you have to, at least from across the road.
I feel like also because it's so bright in the field and so dark where the basket is, it can be deceiving for the depth perception.
Yep, I would agree with that for sure.
Again, sometimes you just have to think like, get close to this tree, and that's, you know, helpful for me.
Just a little on left side.
Little off on the putting there. Paige puts one in. That's a 3 for her, so...
Wow. Yep, and this hole actually played just right around par for the FPO field yesterday. There were 6 birdies on it, actually.
All right, Paige with another birdie, couple pars, and a bogue.
Oh, hole 10. You beautiful hole. I love you. This hole is so tricky. I'm mainly a forehand player, so it does get a little tricky, so the backhand comes into play. And that hill is sloped down to the right. Road on the right is OB, so you really just want to get a backhand down there, something that you know is going to possibly skip at the end. And it's 362 feet, but it is slightly downhill, so you can definitely get to the basket with a good drive.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'd say this is a very reasonable birdie hole for the women's field.
Yeah, just like that.
And that's how you do it.
This was the 8th most difficult hole on the day for the FPO field yesterday.
I usually just throw my Roadrunner down there and let it hyzer back in towards the chips, but you know, I'm throwing a little bit harder than I would in practice today, and things are going a little bit further right than I expected, which is probably the adrenaline of playing on the feature card.
Definitely.
And, you know, you're playing with Paige and it's exciting. So
yeah, just power it through the bushes, I guess, is the play. I was on my shot, I was a little bit too far to the right on those trees. Kicked it and just sat down. So yeah, you can really get into some jail on this hole. So even if the play is maybe just throw it straight down the middle and try not to go for the basket, and then at least have a look or be outside circle 2.
I agree. I think it's better even to just throw straight and land in the fairway than trying to find a disc that will hyzer perfectly at the right moment and ending up in the bushes on the left.
Right.
Which can make the hole almost impossible to get a par if you're on those bushes on the left too far up the fairway.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's always an annoying feeling to make it all the way down there and not be able to capitalize. But, you know, you got to be proud that your accuracy in your driving game's going well.
Right. You think Paige Pierce still gets nervous?
Yes.
I mean, she was playing with y'all, so she had to be kind of nervous.
I think if you love disc golf, there's still some nerves left in you, and
True.
which is probably why you're still competing. You know, that's the fire that burns inside.
Good point.
So Paige did a bag putt for her tap in, which I admire, but not for me, folks. I'm not playing that bag putt game.
Set it down.
I don't care if it's 1 foot away. It's not happening. So Hailey with the only birdie.
Yep, she was one of 2. Kona Panis was the other birdie on that hole for yesterday.
All right, Kona. Hole 11, I love this hole. There are a couple different plays. You can take the left gap and just land straight. You can take the right gap and skip off the road for a nice flare hyzer. I just try to throw over the road, get past the telephone pole, and land anywhere in that opening so you can see the basket for your upshot. Again, I think this is a very birdieable hole for the women's field. So I would say that the majority of us are really aiming for a 3 here.
It's always fun to see the skip off the road when you get a low hyzer shot. Those are so much fun to watch, and a lot of the times they put it on a really good line and it'll land right at that gap. This was the 7th most difficult hole for the FPO field yesterday, averaging just slightly above par. Oh no.
So what you can't see here is that we had about a 7-minute delay where the people were driving in and out of the parking lot and spectators were standing at the corner, and Paige was trying to wait for the proper moment for her shot because she actually aims right at the corner where all the cars and spectators were. And we asked them to move, but you know, they were hard-headed at that moment and nobody really moved, and Paige told herself, I just got to move past the mental block of these people and the vehicles, and, you know, then her shot went OB. So, I learned from Ken Climo, if something's bothering you folks, you just got to say it. So, sometimes maybe you shouldn't power through, you know.
Okay,
we could have even sent someone down there to move the spectators because it really was a safety issue. We all know Paige can reach them, and she could have clocked somebody there at the corner, so...
Yeah, no, that's great advice.
If it's bothering you, speak up.
And shout out to the spotters. I know that they probably had a difficult job too. It's always difficult to confront people about you never really want to offend anybody.
No.
But shout out to the spotters for being out there and volunteering. We really do appreciate their time.
And we love all the spectators, but we want you to stand in a safe position where you can observe the hole, but not in the line of flight of the disc.
Right, and they might not necessarily understand that that's the line that people take. They're like, why would anybody throw over out of bounds? That's silly, but no, it's the great play on this hole.
Hailey a little bit pinched on the left side and opts for this roller. Wow. And check this out, folks.
What?
Look at this thing.
Go Hailey. That was sick.
Getting it done. So I had a great position. I landed right in the gap here. And again, as I mentioned to you, I normally don't make it that far. So I stood there going, well, now what? And as you can see, I overshot my upshot a little bit. But it felt good to have a great drive, especially after we had all the discombobulation with the corner situation.
Right. Good bid by Rebecca there.
Little bit offline. Hailey putting for the 3 here.
Yeah, Hailey.
Nice.
Very nice birdie. She was 1 of 3. Way to play the hole. Look at that smile.
Look at her.
She knows.
Look at her. She's so proud of that roller shot. I slam it in
Great
there.
Great putt. Just like, all right, moving on.
Gotta look out for those ones that are a little too hard, though.
All right, folks, there you have it. That's the front 9. Looks like we got Hailey King in the lead, and we got a long walk over to hole 12. So we will see you there.